In 1985, Nintendo unleashed Super Mario Bros., the famous side-scrolling platformer that captured imaginations and forever changed gaming. 4 years later, in 1989, Nintendo shrunk down Mario for the Game Boy release of Super Mario Land. Then, in 1999, Nintendo attempted to bring the original Super Mario Bros. To handhelds with Super Mario Bros. Deluxe for the Game Boy Color. It was the full NES game in portable form, with extra features that made this version unique, but it had a major problem: screen crunch. The game couldn't fit the full width of a level on the Game Boy Color's small display, making for a cramped and often frustrating experience. But back in late 2024, a fan developer stepped in to do what Nintendo didn't: Super Mario Bros. Mini. It's a reimagining of Super Mario Bros. For the Game Boy Color that takes the best parts of both the NES original and Super Mario Land while avoiding the pitfalls of Super Mario Bros. Deluxe. It's the same Super Mario Bros. From the NES, but rebuilt to actually work on the Game Boy Color. It has a wider view, fluid controls, and even a whole second quest with brand new worlds and bosses. But let's not get too far ahead just yet. So what exactly is Super Mario Bros. Mini? Well, it's not your typical fan-made Super Mario project. It's not a ROM hack either. It's a free, open-source, full-blown fan-made Super Mario Bros. Game built entirely from scratch by developer Miko27 using Game Boy Studio. Now, Game Boy Studio, if you're not familiar, is a modern Game Boy development tool that aids in the creation of authentic Game Boy games. This means Super Mario Bros. Mini won't just run in emulators. You can load it onto a flash cart and play it on a real Game Boy Color. But don't worry if you don't have original hardware laying around. Playing in a modern emulator or even right in your web browser works great too. Now, you might be wondering, how does it stack up against the NES version? Well, visually, Super Mario Bros. Mini has made some smart choices. Instead of squeezing full-sized NES graphics onto the tiny Game Boy Color screen, something Nintendo learned the hard way with Deluxe, Super Mario Bros. Mini opted for scaled-down sprites and tiles. This approach is similar to what Nintendo did themselves with Super Mario Land. The result is smaller characters and blocks, sure, but the upside is a much wider viewing area. Instead of just 16 horizontal blocks that are visible across the NES version, you now get around 20. It might sound minor, but it actually makes a huge difference, eliminating the dreaded screen crunch that plagued Super Mario Bros. Deluxe. No more blind leaps of faith or memorizing enemy placements just to survive a jump. Super Mario Bros. Mini keeps things visible and comfortable. It doesn't replicate the NES perfectly, but it captures its spirit incredibly well, making it really feel like you're playing a shrunken down version of the original. But visuals are only part of the story. Let's talk about how Super Mario Bros. Mini actually plays. If you've spent countless hours on the NES original, you'll immediately notice some differences in Mario's controls and physics. Classic Mario had weight and momentum, sliding slightly when changing directions. Super Mario Bros. Mini simplifies things a bit. Mario stops almost immediately when you let go of the button, and there's much less momentum in air. At first, this tighter, more responsive feel might catch you off guard. It's definitely easier to control, especially on a smaller handheld, but if you're used to the NES style, it might take some getting used to. If you played Super Mario Land, these tighter controls will feel familiar. Kinda like an updated, tighter version of the Super Mario Land controls. It's different from the NES version, but not bad at all. But those first few levels might require retraining your muscle memory. Beyond controls, Super Mario Bros. Mini adds some thoughtful improvements taken from later Mario titles. You can now hold the jump button to bounce off enemies, where in the original, you always bounce just a short, fixed height. Hitting the top of the flagpole now grants you a 1-up, and you can also now gain 1-ups by defeating multiple enemies while powered up with a star. It's really easy to rack up a ton of extra lives in this game. Enemies in this game behave slightly different as well. For example, piranha plants come out of their pipes quicker than usual, which I can tell you really threw me off until I got used to it. Lakitu was another enemy that threw me off. Normally he throws his spiny straight down, and here he now tosses them at an angle, forcing you to work a little harder to dodge them. I mean, these adjustments are minor and fair, not sure if it's just an oversight or a redesign decision, but the changes here never stray far enough from the classic game to feel frustrating. One thing I really appreciate about Super Mario Bros. Mini is just how much care was put into the little details. It's clear the developer didn't just want this to look like Mario, they wanted it to feel like Mario, right down to the smallest details. In terms of authenticity, Super Mario Bros. Mini is impressively detailed. Warp zones, secret invisible one-ups, and even the castle mazes in stages 4-4, 7-4, and 8-4 still require you to take the correct path to progress, just like in the NES version. One unusual thing I found impressive were the springboards. Historically, these things have been a pain in the butt in Super Mario fan games, and even some official games, but here are recreated well, and they work just fine. Little touches like the firework bonus trick and the accurate recreations of the iconic music tracks show just how carefully crafted this entire project was. Ultimately, Super Mario Bros. Mini beautifully blends nostalgia with thoughtful enhancements. It's clear the developer genuinely understood what made the original great, and what improvements would work best for the Game Boy Color. This game is really something special. Now, recreating the original Super Mario Bros. So faithfully for the Game Boy Color is already impressive, but believe it or not, that's not even the coolest part. At the title screen, if you hit the B button, you'll find yourself staring at a secret menu, packed with some extra goodies. You get access to a straightforward level select mode, which lets you jump directly into any stage you'd like. There's also a randomizer mode that mixes things up by scrambling level layouts and color palettes. But let's talk about the B quest. This part is awesome. This isn't some level remix or just a hard mode. It's practically a brand new Super Mario game, complete with 8 entirely new worlds, fresh gameplay mechanics, Yoshi, and even new boss fights. Unlike the original Super Mario Bros., each world in the B quest has its own theme, taking inspiration from across the Mario series and beyond. To give a few examples, World 10 drops you into a completely new desert landscape, which reminds me of Super Mario Land. Stage 10-4 even features a clever puzzle mechanic with Bowser's axe, where you don't want to accidentally hit the wrong one. World 11 plunges Mario into an underwater world, where piranha plants come out of the bushes, and in World 11-3, Lakitu floats around throwing spinies at you while you're underwater. There's also an interesting Flappy Bird style area. World 12 is a vertical stage where you're climbing vines, carefully avoiding enemies, and timing your jumps precisely. The screen only scrolls upwards here, so it's easy to fall off the bottom of the screen. In World 12-4, you have to avoid Ganchans, you know, those rock-like enemies from Super Mario Land. In World 13, you're high up in the clouds avoiding Bullet Bills and can only jump on the clouds with smiley faces. There's also an interesting part in World 13-3 where Lakitu throws superstars, which you have to actually try to avoid because you need to bounce on the Koopas to get through the stage. World 14 returns to the underground with an interesting maze level and some fun layouts with tougher platforming sequences. World 15 goes way back to the classic Donkey Kong arcade, maybe even a Donkey Kong 94 style. You'll jump around girders and dodge barrels, just like you'd expect. And yeah, you even battled Donkey Kong himself at the end. And then there's World 16, the Giant World, which immediately brings back memories of Super Mario 3's Giant Land. Everything feels enormous, or maybe Mario's just really tiny. Either way, it's visually fun and surprisingly challenging. The B quest also brings in new bosses from other Mario games, especially Super Mario Land. You'll face King Totemasu, Tatanga, and even Wario himself, with a battle that's very similar to Super Mario Land 2. Bowser does eventually show up, but this time, instead of just sprinting past him and grabbing the axe, which you will do, there's also a final battle type scene where you need to dodge his hands and bounce off Ganchans to stomp him directly. This one feels more like a genuine boss fight and adds a satisfying conclusion to the game. But there's more. Hidden in each world's first stage is Yoshi. Yoshi gives you a double jump and even lets you defeat enemies with your tongue. He's hidden pretty well, and so far I've only found him in a couple of stages. Super Mario Bros. Mini is absolutely worth your time to check out. It doesn't feel like just another fan-made hack. It feels like a genuine lost Mario game. It's got the charm and simplicity of the NES classic, with creative twists that are very impressive. There are some things in the game you might need some time to adjust to, but once you do, you'll quickly appreciate how thoughtfully everything has been put together. The main game is incredible, and the B-Quest mode really blew me away. The best part is that this game is entirely free and open source, so if you want to make your own Game Boy games in Game Boy Studio, the source code of this is available for you to see how it works. Super Mario fan projects this good don't usually stick around forever though, so I'd recommend jumping on this while you can. And if you do give it a shot, let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more videos like this. I also have a Patreon that I'm trying to get going. I want to make videos more often, so any support would be much appreciated. Thanks for your time today, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.